I'm a relatively new narrative educator. I've been teaching narrative for about 4 or 5 years. Just to talk a little bit about myself, and I feel like that it's important and appropriate because one of the things that I know about working with diverse communities is that often it's important to locate yourself and to let you know who I am so that people know who's in the room, and that the act of creating community then allows for openness and freedom to speak with candor. I am originally from Los Angeles. I was born in Inglewood, grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and I'm first generation Californian. My father is from Mississippi, my mother is from Texas, and we can trace our history in Texas back to about the early 1800s. But it's interesting that you tell this story about your grandmother and being a part of a family of matriarchs, because I grew up with my great-grandmother who was born in 1901 and my grandmother who was born in 1919. And interesting, these stories about going into the grandmother's room to pray. Because there was always that moment when all of the grandkids were there and it was like, okay, so you need to go into your great-grandmother's room to pray, and we would like line up all around the bed and we would like get in our prayer positions all around. And I remember this one time, it just happened to be all of the girl cousins. And my great-grandmother starts off, instead of praying, she's like, okay, so when you go out on a date, you don't let the boys kiss you. And we were like, oh, wait a minute. This is a different conversation. But it was always about imparting some kind of wisdom. It was always that moment when you would be in that house that's where the therapy happened, you know, sitting around eating. In my family, pinto beans and cornbread, that was the thing. And so it was always just this therapeutic healing space. Fast forwarding into the classroom, one of the things that we do in the expressive arts therapy program, where I teach counseling psychology, is that we start off the very first orientation day in the program doing the Tree of Life. We do the Tree of Life and we do faculty narratives during that 2-day period. And it's about the same thing that you were talking about, which is not asking the students to do anything that we're not willing to do. Right. And we all come from different arts backgrounds. We have, you know, musicians and poets and actors and dancers and whoever else, you know, but we're always seeking to be able to share that part of ourselves, our artist identities, and that we're also wanting to share our personal identities along with our identities as faculty members, instructors. And right there you begin to notice the complexity, the nuance of who we are as people, outside of, you know, this idea of multiculturalism, because we all have culture. We all come from a particular place, and that it's our locations, our geographics, our, you know, our family systems, our small communities that help us become who we are going to be. It's about who we are in terms of gender. We have a lot of folks from the LGBTQ community. It's that joyful moment of coming together with all of these diverse, complex, nuanced identities that really make us a community. And it really adds, I feel, to the richness of how we're able to tell these stories about ourselves. So we do that just with the students coming in the door fresh. And then as a part of the narrative, it's the collaborative narrative and expressive arts class. We have the students create a document of identity for their partner they've worked with throughout the narrative class. And so it's an aesthetic document that they get a chance to really pay attention to their partner, and then have all of these moments of like appreciation and curiosity about themselves and their process towards becoming narrative therapist. And I think that it merges with this idea of African-centered psychology, which is really, and I would even say more specifically, African-American work within psychology. My dissertation topic, it's looking at the ways that culturally empowered African Americans use creativity and spirituality. When we look at like some of the principles coming out of an African-centered perspective, we're looking at harmony, balance, interconnectedness, cultural awareness, and authenticity. And I can't distinguish how that's different from what I'm doing as a narrative therapist often. That what I'm doing as a narrative therapist is informed by who I am from my cultural position. And one of the things that comes out from like African Americans just creativity and spirituality, which is I think important, is that we've always sort of been subject in this country to a Eurocentric gaze from the moment that we were brought here. And so one of the things that's been really important is self-definition. And I use narrative therapy all the time because it aids in that process of self-definition, that clients or students or whoever have this ability to be able to say, this is what I've been subjected to from a larger systemic perspective, and this is who I know myself to be outside of any other, onlooking or whatever else. This is who I know myself to be in terms of my own culture, the way that I show up, that kind of thing. And I really think that that's an important piece, that when I am working with individuals who have had substance abuse experiences and things like that, or trauma, and have not had really that opportunity to really understand themselves from this particular position, that's always the moment that becomes most salient.